The late afternoon sun painted Pine Lake in shades of amber and rose as 17-year-old Maya Washington huddled beneath the weathered pier, her thin frame pressed against the cool sand. She wrapped her arms tighter around her knees, trying to ignore the angry growl of her empty stomach. 3 days had passed since her last real meal, half a sandwich pulled from a gas station dumpster, the bread only slightly stale. Maya's dark hair hung limp and unwashed around her face, and her clothes carried the musty smell of someone who'd been sleeping rough. Through the gaps between the pier's wooden boards, she watched a gathering that both fascinated and terrified her. Motorcycles lined the shore like chrome sentinels, their polished surfaces catching the dying light. The men and women who owned them wore black leather vests decorated with patches, their laughter rough and easy as music drifted from portable speakers. Hell's Angels, Maya had seen documentaries about motorcycle clubs, heard whispered stories in foster homes about their reputation. Now here they were, just yards away, grilling burgers and hot dogs whose smell made her mouth water with desperate longing. She clutched her backpack closer, feeling the hard edges of everything she owned in the world press against her chest. A change of clothes, a toothbrush with half its bristles gone, $27 in crumpled bills. A dog-eared paperback she'd read 17 times, and her mother's silver locket, the only piece of her life before foster care that remained. Better than being at the Harper's place, Maya whispered to herself, though the words felt hollow. Her last foster home had become unbearable when Mr. Harper's hands started wandering to places they shouldn't, and Mrs. Harper's suspicious eyes seemed to blame Maya for her husband's attention. When Mr. Harper cornered her in the laundry room last week, Maya had grabbed her backpack and run, choosing uncertain freedom over certain violation. Heavy boots suddenly thumped on the pier above her head. Maya froze, not even breathing. "That's Linda, Dave's old lady," a gravelly voice said directly overhead. "Been married 22 years now. She keeps the big man in line, that's for sure." Another voice laughed. "Dave said if anyone even looks at her wrong, they answer to the whole club. Remember what happened to that guy in Oakdale?" The boots moved away, their conversation fading. Maya slowly released her breath, her heart still hammering. She needed to be more careful. If they discovered her watching them from the shadows, there was no telling what might happen. Through the pier boards, Maya watched a woman with long silver-streaked hair hand out paper plates to children darting between picnic tables. The woman wore a black tank top that read "Property of Dave" across the back, and she moved with an easy confidence Maya had never felt in her own body. What would it be like, she wondered, to move through the world feeling that safe, that protected, that free? Part 2: The Silent Drowning. The water lapped gently at the shore near Maya's feet as the evening air grew cooler. She watched Linda walk toward the lake's edge, dipping her toes in the water before calling back to the others. "Water's perfect, I'm going for a swim." Several people cheered, but no one joined her. Maya felt a pang of something like envy as Linda waded deeper, her body moving with the grace of someone completely comfortable in her own skin. Maya's own mother had taught her to swim in a chlorine-heavy public pool when she was 5, one of the few clear memories she still held from before the drugs consumed her mother entirely. "Everyone should know how to swim," her mama had said, her hands gentle and steady as they supported Maya's small body in the water. "Water can save you or kill you, baby girl. Respect it, but don't fear it." Linda swam further out, her arms cutting through the water in smooth, practiced strokes. The music from the barbecue grew louder as someone turned up the volume, and the bikers laughed and talked, paying no attention to the woman swimming alone. Maya's eyelids grew heavy. Maybe she could rest here just a little while longer. When darkness fell and the club left, she could search through their trash for food scraps. It wouldn't be the first time hunger had pushed her to such measures. Then something changed. Maya sat up straight, her exhaustion forgotten. Linda's arms were moving strangely, not smooth strokes anymore, but wild, desperate splashing. For a second, the woman's head disappeared beneath the surface, then popped back up. Her mouth opened in what looked like a cry for help, but the music drowned out any sound she made. Maya looked toward the barbecue. No one was watching the lake. No one saw what was happening. Linda went under again, longer this time. When she surfaced, her movements were noticeably weaker. Maya's chest tightened with a fear that had nothing to do with her own safety. "She's drowning," Maya whispered, the words catching in her throat. "That lady is drowning and nobody sees." She watched Linda disappear beneath the water once more. This time she didn't come back up. 5 seconds passed, 10. The surface of the lake remained smooth and undisturbed, as if the woman had never existed at all. "Someone help her," Maya breathed, looking desperately toward the bikers. But the music blasted an old rock song. People laughed and gestured with their beer bottles, and no one, not a single person, was looking at the lake. Maya's hands gripped the rough wood of the pier until splinters bit into her palms. She should stay hidden, These weren't her people. This wasn't her problem. She had enough troubles of her own without inviting more. Not my business, she told herself firmly. Don't get involved. But the seconds kept ticking by, still no Linda. 20 seconds now, 30, people couldn't breathe underwater. Maya knew that soon, very soon, it would be too late. She thought of her own near drowning at 8 years old when a foster father had pulled her from a pool, more angry about her wet clothes than concerned whether she was okay. No one had really cared if she lived or died then. She looked at her backpack, everything she owned in the world. If she left it to help Linda, someone might steal it, or the bikers might find it and know someone had been watching them. Either way, she might lose the little she had left. Stay put, a voice in her head warned. Stay safe, stay hidden. But another voice, one that sounded heartbreakingly like her mother's, whispered, water can save you or kill you, baby girl. 45 seconds now, maybe a minute, no sign of Linda breaking the surface. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the choice pressing down on her young shoulders. Then, with a sound somewhere between a groan and a prayer, she made her decision. Part 3, 9 minutes. Maya kicked off her worn sneakers and shoved them deep into her backpack, then pushed the bag further under the pier, hiding it as best she could in the shadows. Her hands trembled as she stood, the late afternoon sun hitting her face after 3 days of hiding in darkness. Without allowing herself time to reconsider, she ran into the lake. The water was shockingly cold against her sun-warmed skin. The lake bottom felt squishy between her toes, then suddenly dropped away. Maya gasped as the water reached her chest, her neck, and then she was swimming, heading for the spot where she'd last seen Linda disappear. When she reached the middle of the lake, Maya filled her lungs with air and dove down. The water turned murky and green around her, visibility reduced to mere feet. Her hands reached out blindly, touching only water and stringy lake weeds. Her lungs began to burn, forcing her back to the surface. She gulped air and looked around frantically. Nothing but ripples on the water. She had to try again. This time she dove deeper, kicking hard to reach the bottom. The pressure made her ears ache. Bits of sand and decomposing plants floated around her in the dim underwater world. The water grew darker and colder the deeper she went. Then through the murk she saw something pale, an arm, a leg. It was Linda, lying completely still at the bottom of the lake, her silver-streaked hair waving around her head like underwater grass. Her eyes were closed, her mouth slightly open, bubbles no longer rising from her lips. Maya swam toward her, but her own lungs were already screaming for air. She had to surface. Breaking through to the air, she heard shouting for the first time. Linda, has anyone seen Linda? The music had stopped. People stood at the water's edge, looking out with growing alarm. A huge man with a thick gray beard was already pulling off his leather vest, about to jump in. She's down there, Maya shouted, pointing at the spot, her voice cracking. At the bottom. Then she filled her lungs again and dove back down, swimming straight to where Linda lay. As she got closer, her heart sank. Linda's foot was caught in something, old fishing line tangled around roots and branches at the lake bottom. That's why she couldn't surface. That's why she drowned while her family ate burgers just yards away. Maya's lungs burned worse than before. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision, but she reached Linda and pulled desperately at the fishing line. It was strong and wouldn't break, cutting into Maya's fingers as she tugged and twisted. Her chest felt like it would explode. Her body screamed at her to surface, to breathe, to save herself. Just when she thought she'd have to abandon Linda and go up for air, the line gave way. Linda's foot came free. Maya grabbed the woman around the waist and kicked hard for the surface, her legs burning with effort, her lungs on fire. They broke through into blessed air and sunshine together. Maya gasped and coughed, barely able to keep both their heads above water. Linda was completely limp, a dead weight in her arms. Help, Maya called weakly, her voice barely carrying. Help us. The big bearded man reached them first, crashing through the water like a bear. His face was twisted with raw terror. He snatched Linda from Maya's arms as if the woman weighed nothing. Linda, baby, wake up, he roared, his voice breaking on the words as he carried her toward shore. Other hands grabbed Maya, pulling her along. Her legs felt like jelly. Her chest ached from holding her breath so long. As they reached the beach, she saw the bearded man, Dave, she remembered, lay Linda on the sand. Linda's skin was an awful blue-gray color, her body completely limp and unresponsive. How long was she under? Someone asked urgently. I don't know, another voice answered. 5 minutes more. Maya knew it had been longer, much longer. She'd watched Linda go under, had waited precious seconds before making her decision, had searched for her twice before finding her. 9 minutes, maybe more. She'd read somewhere that brain damage started after just 4 or 5 minutes without oxygen. Dave started compressions on Linda's chest, his massive hands working with surprising gentleness. Then he breathed into her mouth. Push, 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 breathe. Over and over, his movements mechanical but desperate. Around them, the club members gathered in a tight circle. Some prayed, some cried. Maya stood on wobbly legs, dripping lake water and feeling very small among these tough-looking people. She thought of her backpack still hidden under the pier. Maybe she could slip away now while everyone was focused on Linda. But her legs wouldn't move. She had to know if Linda would be okay. Dave kept working on Linda's still body. 3 minutes of compressions. 4. Tears ran down his weathered face into his gray beard, his huge hands looking almost gentle on Linda's chest. "Come on, baby," he kept saying between breaths, his voice cracking. "Don't leave me, please don't leave me." Part 4, Awakening. Maya stood back from the circle of bikers, shivering in her soaked clothes. Water dripped steadily from her hair onto her shoulders, creating small dark spots on the sand. Her teeth chattered, partly from the cold lake water, partly from the adrenaline still flooding her system, and partly from pure fear. She was scared Linda wouldn't wake up, scared of what these intimidating people might do, scared of what would happen next. A woman with short red hair and elaborate tattoos covering both arms stepped toward Maya. Her leather vest bore multiple patches, and her eyes were sharp and assessing. "You're the one who found her?" she asked, her voice gravelly but not unkind. Maya nodded, unable to find her voice. "What were you doing out in the lake?" I saw her go under," Maya managed, her voice barely above a whisper. No one else was looking. The red-haired woman's frown deepened. "Where'd you come from? You're not with our group." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She glanced toward the pier where her backpack lay hidden. She needed to get away from these people before they figured out she'd been spying on them from beneath the pier. Who knew what they'd do to a homeless kid who'd been watching them? Just then Linda made a sound, a small, wet cough. Everyone turned as one. The cough grew bigger, more forceful. Water spurted from Linda's mouth. Dave quickly turned her onto her side as she coughed up more lake water, her body convulsing with the effort. "That's it, baby," Dave said, his voice thick with emotion. "Get it out, come on now." Linda's eyes fluttered open. They were blue, clear, beautiful blue like a summer sky. She looked confused and disoriented, her gaze unfocused. "Dave," she whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. A huge cheer erupted from the gathered bikers. Some threw their arms around each other. Others wiped away tears they probably didn't know they'd shed. Dave gathered Linda in his massive arms, holding her close but carefully, as if she might break. "I thought I lost you," he said, his big shoulders shaking as he cried openly. "I thought you were gone." Someone ran to get blankets from their truck. Someone else pulled out a cell phone to call 911. The mood shifted instantly from grief-stricken to jubilant. Maya took a step backward, then another. No one was watching her now. This was her chance to slip away unnoticed. She turned and started walking slowly toward the pier, trying not to draw attention to herself. "Hey, wait," a deep voice called out. Maya froze mid-step. She looked back to see Dave standing, leaving Linda wrapped in blankets with several club members caring for her. He pointed a thick finger directly at Maya. "You," he said, his voice carrying across the beach. "You saved my wife." Every single person turned to look at her. Maya wished desperately that the ground would open up and swallow her whole. She wasn't used to attention, had spent most of her 17 years trying to be invisible, trying not to be noticed, trying not to be hurt. "What's your name, kid?" Dave asked, walking closer. His shadow fell over her, and Maya had to crane her neck back to look at his face. "Maya," she said so quietly he had to lean down to hear her. "Maya," he repeated, testing the name. Linda was under for 9 minutes. Doctors always told us brain damage starts after 4 to 5 minutes without oxygen. But you got her out and she's awake and talking. His voice grew thick again. "You're a hero." Maya shook her head quickly. "I just saw her stuck down there. Anyone would have helped." A man with a patch on his vest that read Treasurer stepped forward. But no one else did help. We all missed it. The music was too loud. We were all too distracted. You're the only one who saw and did something. Dave nodded slowly, his eyes studying Maya more carefully now. "Where are your parents, Maya? They should know what you did today." Maya looked down at her feet. Her toes were muddy from the lake bottom, her clothes still dripping. "Don't have any," she said quietly. "I mean, I'm on my own." The words hung in the air. Maya could feel the weight of their stares, could sense them putting pieces together. Her worn clothes, her thin frame, the dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights in dangerous places. Dave and the red-haired woman exchanged a long look. "How old are you?" the woman asked, her voice gentler now. 17, Maya answered. "Jesus," someone muttered from the crowd. "She's just a kid." Dave looked at Maya with new understanding, taking in her thin arms, her old clothes that hung loose on her frame, the wary look in her eyes that spoke of hard experience. "When's the last time you ate, Maya?" Maya shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "Yesterday morning, found half a sandwich in she stopped herself, but the damage was done. "In a dumpster," the red-haired woman finished softly. The silence that followed felt heavy. Maya took another step back, her muscles tensing for flight. "I should go," she said. "I need to get my backpack." "You're not going anywhere," Dave said firmly, but his voice was kind. "Except to the hospital with Linda. Then you're coming home with us for a hot meal and dry clothes." Maya's eyes widened. I don't. "Not taking no for an answer, kid," Dave cut her off. "You saved my old lady's life. That makes you family now." In the distance, an ambulance siren wailed, growing closer. "Family," Maya repeated, not understanding. The word felt foreign in her mouth, like a language she'd once known but had forgotten how to speak. The red-haired woman smiled for the first time, transforming her tough features. "The angels take care of their own, honey, and anyone who saves one of us becomes one of us." "But I'm nobody," Maya whispered, "just a runaway." Dave placed a heavy but surprisingly gentle hand on her shoulder. "Not anymore." Part 5. Hospital Lights. Maya woke to bright fluorescent lights and white walls. For a moment panic seized her. Where was she? Then memory flooded back. The lake, Linda drowning, the dive, the rescue. She was in a hospital bed with rails on both sides, an IV tube running into her arm and taped securely in place. Her wet clothes were gone, replaced by a thin paper gown that barely covered her. She felt exposed and vulnerable. "There she is," said a familiar voice. Maya turned her head to see the red-haired woman from the lake sitting in a chair beside her bed. The woman smiled warmly. "Welcome back, Sleeping Beauty. I'm Trish." Maya tried to sit up but felt too weak, her muscles trembling with the effort. "How long was I out?" she asked, her throat dry and scratchy. "About 4 hours, Trish said, leaning forward. "Doctor says you were exhausted, dehydrated, and your blood sugar was dangerously low. They're giving you fluids and nutrients through that tube." "Is Linda okay?" Maya asked urgently, the question more important than her own condition. "She's down the hall," Trish assured her. "They're keeping her overnight for observation, but she's doing great. The doctor called it a miracle, no brain damage at all after 9 minutes underwater. You gave her back to us, Maya. You gave Dave back his wife, those kids back their mama." Maya relaxed slightly against the pillows, then another worry hit her. "My backpack, it's still under the pier. All my stuff is in it, everything I own." "Don't worry about that," Trish said. "Dave sent some of the guys to look for it. They found it right where you said it would be. It's safe." A nurse entered to check Maya's vital signs, taking her temperature and blood pressure with practiced efficiency. "Looking much better," she said, making notes on a chart. "You were severely dehydrated and your blood sugar was critically low. When was the last time you had a real meal?" Maya shrugged uncomfortably. "I don't remember, maybe 3 days ago, 4. The nurse shook her head with a mixture of sadness and concern. "Well, you can eat now. I'll bring you something." After the nurse left, Trish leaned forward in her chair, her expression serious. "Dave and I talked while you were sleeping. We know you're a runaway. We should call social services, get you back in the system." "Please don't," Maya interrupted, her voice breaking with desperation. "I can't go back. You don't understand what it was like." "Actually," Trish said quietly, "I think I do. I ran away when I was 16. My stepdad had wandering hands, if you know what I mean. Mama didn't believe me when I told her, said I was lying for attention, so I left." Maya stared at her, surprised that this tough-looking woman with her leather and tattoos had once been a scared girl like herself. "That's why we're not calling anyone," Trish continued. "Dave and Linda want you to stay with them for a while, at least until you get your feet under you, figure out what you want to do next." Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. "But you don't even know me. Why would they want to help me?" "Like Dave said at the lake, you saved Linda. In our world, that makes you family," Trish explained. "And we take care of family. No questions asked, no strings attached. You need a safe place, you got one. You need food, clothes, a bed, you got it. You saved one of ours, so now you're one of ours." Tears stung Maya's eyes, the first tears she'd allowed herself to cry in months. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Trish said simply. Say you'll give us a chance to give you what you deserve, safety, respect, and a family that's got your back. Maya nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. For the first time in longer than she could remember, something that felt like hope flickered to life in her chest. Part 6, 3 months later. 3 months had passed since that day at Pine Lake. Maya stood in front of the bathroom mirror in what used to be the guest room of Dave and Linda's lakeside house. It wasn't the guest room anymore, it was Maya's room. Her clothes hung in the closet, her books lined a shelf. Photos she'd taken with her new phone were tucked into the mirror's frame, capturing moments she wanted to remember. Linda teaching her to make cornbread, Dave showing her how to change motorcycle oil, Trish braiding her hair on the back porch. Maya studied her reflection. Her face had filled out from 3 months of regular meals. Her hair was clean and shiny, cut into a style that framed her face. The dark circles under her eyes had faded. She looked healthy. She looked cared for. She looked like a different person from the desperate girl who'd hidden under a pier. Over her t-shirt, she wore a leather vest with patches. One patch read AFFA, Angels Forever, Forever Angels. She was an honorary member now. The club had voted unanimously the night before, and several of the women had cried when they presented her with the vest. Linda knocked gently on the open door. You about ready? Everyone's here for the party. Today marked 3 months since the lake incident. Linda was fully recovered, no lasting effects at all from her 9 minutes underwater. The club was throwing a party to celebrate her recovery and Maya's official welcome into the family. I'm ready, Maya said, turning from the mirror. Just feels weird, you know, the vest and all, like I'm pretending to be something I'm not. Linda came in and straightened Maya's collar with the practiced care of a mother. You earned it, baby girl. Not many people get to be Angel's family without being born into it or married into it. You're special. I keep thinking I'll wake up and be back under that pier, Maya admitted quietly, hungry and scared and alone. Linda pulled her into a tight hug. This is real, honey. You're stuck with us now, whether you like it or not. We're your family, and family means forever. They walked downstairs together. Through the windows, Maya could see motorcycles lined up in the driveway, dozens of them, chrome gleaming in the afternoon sun. The house smelled like barbecue and fresh-baked pie. People in leather vests filled every room, their laughter warm and genuine. Children ran through the house playing tag, completely safe and free. When Maya entered the living room, everyone cheered. She felt her cheeks grow hot with embarrassment and pleasure. Dave came forward carrying Maya's old backpack, the same one from under the pier, but cleaned up now, with new patches sewn carefully onto its worn fabric. He handed it to her with ceremony. Your old life and your new life together in one place, he said, his voice solemn. Maya opened the backpack with trembling hands. Inside were her few old possessions, the paperback book with its spine broken from countless readings, her toothbrush, and her mother's silver locket. But there was something new, too, a thick manila envelope. What's this? She asked, looking up at Dave and Linda. Open it, Dave said, his arm around Linda's shoulders, both of them smiling. Inside the envelope was a document from a lawyer. Maya read it slowly, her eyes moving over words that didn't quite make sense at first. Then understanding hit her like a wave. It was a petition for legal guardianship. Dave and Linda Miller were applying to be her legal guardians until she turned 18. If you want, Linda said quickly. Only if you want, no pressure, but we'd be honored if you'd let us. Tears filled Maya's eyes, real tears, the kind that came from feeling instead of hurting. She hadn't cried in years, not even when the Harpers had hurt her, not even when she'd slept cold and hungry under bridges, but now the tears came and wouldn't stop. I want, she whispered, I really, really want. Linda hugged her tight while Dave wrapped his big arms around both of them. Around the room, tough bikers wiped their eyes and pretended they weren't crying too. Part 7, full circle. Later that evening, as the party moved outside to the lakeshore, Maya found herself drawn to the pier, the same pier she'd hidden beneath 3 months ago, desperate and alone. She walked out onto the weathered wood, her footsteps echoing hollowly. The water was calm today, reflecting the orange and pink sunset like liquid fire. From here she could see the spot where Linda had nearly drowned, the spot where everything had changed. Water can save you or kill you, her mother had once said. For Linda, it had nearly killed her, but somehow, impossibly, that same water had saved Maya. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Trish walking out onto the pier. Thought I might find you here, Trish said, coming to stand beside her. This place means something to you. This is where I was hiding when I saw Linda go under, Maya said. I was so scared that day, hungry, alone, didn't know where my next meal was coming from or where I'd sleep that night. She paused, looking out at the water. I almost didn't help her. I almost stayed hidden. But you didn't, Trish said firmly. You made the choice to help, even though it could have cost you everything. That takes real courage, Maya. That's why you're one of us now. I used to think courage meant not being scared, Maya said softly, but I was terrified when I dove into that water. My hands were shaking. I thought I might die down there. Courage isn't about not being scared, Trish said. It's about being scared and doing the right thing anyway. That's what makes you family. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sun sink lower. Then Trish put a hand on Maya's shoulder. You know what the best part is? Trish asked. What? You didn't just save Linda that day, you saved yourself too. You chose to be the kind of person who helps instead of hiding. You chose to matter, and that choice changed everything. Maya touched the two pendants hanging around her neck, her mother's silver locket, and beside it, her new AFFA charm. Both were part of who she was now. Both were part of her story. Come on, Trish said. Dave's calling for a family picture. You're the guest of honor. Maya walked back down the pier with Trish, toward the group of leather-clad bikers who had become, against all odds, her family. The smell of grilling meat filled the air, just like that day 3 months ago. But this time she wasn't watching from the shadows. This time there was a place for her at the table. As she joined the group, Linda put an arm around her shoulders and Dave stood tall behind them both. Children squeezed in around their legs, other club members pressed close, everyone wanting to be in the picture. The photographer, a biker named Marcus who'd been with the club for 20 years, counted down. 3, 2, 1. Maya smiled for the camera, her hand touching both pendants at her throat. The flash went off, capturing the moment forever. A girl who had been lost finding her way home, a family that had gained a daughter, and proof that sometimes the worst days can lead to the best new beginnings. Part 8, Home. A year later, Maya sat at the kitchen table in Dave and Linda's house, her house now, working on college applications. She was 18, legally an adult, but the guardianship papers had meant everything. They'd given her stability during her senior year of high school, made her eligible for scholarships and financial aid, and most importantly, they'd given her something she'd never had before, parents who chose her. Linda came in from the back porch carrying a basket of fresh laundry. How's it going, baby? Almost done with the essay for State University, Maya said, stretching her arms above her head, writing about how I found my family. They're going to love you, Linda said confidently, setting down the basket and coming to read over Maya's shoulder. Smart, brave, and you've got a story that proves you're a survivor. The front door opened and Dave walked in, wiping grease from his hands with a red shop rag. Taught that Martinez kid how to change his oil today, he announced. Kid's got potential, might make a decent mechanic someday. Maya smiled. Dave had started teaching her motorcycle maintenance 6 months ago, and she discovered she had a natural talent for it. More importantly, she discovered she loved it. The problem-solving, the precision, the satisfaction of making something broken work again. Maybe there was a metaphor in that for her own life. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trish. Don't forget girls' night tomorrow. We're finally watching that movie you picked. Maya texted back a quick confirmation, still amazed that she had people who wanted to spend time with her, who made plans with her days in advance, who noticed when she was absent. You know what I was thinking about today, Maya said, looking up from her laptop. What's that? Linda asked, folding towels. That day at the lake, how I almost didn't help, how I almost stayed hidden. Dave came to sit at the table across from her, but you didn't stay hidden, that's what matters. I know, but I keep wondering, what if I had? What if I'd been too scared or too worried about my own problems? Linda would have died and I'd still be out there somewhere, running and hiding and barely surviving. But that's not what happened, Linda said gently, coming to sit beside her. You made a choice that saved my life and changed yours. You can't torture yourself with what-ifs. I'm not torturing myself, Maya said. I'm just grateful, I guess. That day was the worst day of my life and the best day of my life all at once. I was so desperate and scared, but I still chose to help. And that choice led me here to you, to this family, to having a real home for the first time since my mama died. Dave's eyes were suspiciously bright. You gave us a gift that day too, kid. You gave me back my wife. You showed us all that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when things get hard. You showed up. There was a knock at the door and Trish walked in without waiting for an answer, as was her way. Hey, family, I brought those college brochures I told you about. My cousin's daughter goes to state and she said the criminal justice program is excellent. Maya had decided she wanted to study social work, maybe work with foster kids someday. She wanted to be the person for other kids that no one had been for her, someone who listened, who believed them, who fought for them. Also, Trish continued, pulling out a chair and sitting down. The club voted this morning. We want to start a scholarship fund for kids aging out of foster care. We're calling it the Maya Washington Second Chance Scholarship. What do you think? Maya felt tears prick her eyes. You're nomming it after me. Your story inspired it, Dave said. You proved that one moment of courage can change everything. We want to help other kids like you find their second chance. I don't know what to say, Maya whispered. Say you'll help us run it, Linda suggested. You understand what these kids need better than any of us. You've lived it. Maya nodded, overwhelmed. A year ago, she'd been sleeping under a pier with $27 to her name and no hope for the future. Now she had a family, a home, college applications in progress, and the chance to help other kids who felt as lost as she once had. That evening, as sunset painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, the same colors as that day at the lake, Maya walked out to the pier one more time. It had become her thinking spot, the place she went when she needed to process her feelings or make important decisions. She looked down at the sand beneath the pier where she'd once hidden, hungry and afraid. Then she looked up at the house on the hill, lit from within, full of people who loved her. The distance between those 2 points, between the desperate girl she'd been and the confident young woman she was becoming, felt impossibly vast. Thank you, she whispered, not sure if she was talking to God, the universe, her mother's memory, or just herself. Thank you for giving me the courage to help. Thank you for bringing me home. A voice called from the house, Linda, shouting that dinner was ready. Maya smiled and turned away from the water, walking toward the light, toward the laughter, toward the family that had claimed her as their own. She touched the 2 pendants at her throat one more time, her mother's locket and her AFFA charm, past and present united. She had been lost, but now she was found. She had been nobody, but now she was somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's family. And it had all started with one choice on the worst and best day of her life, the choice to dive into dark water to save a stranger, not knowing that in saving Linda, she would ultimately save herself. Maya walked into the house, into the warmth and noise and love, and closed the door behind her. She was home. If you were in their place, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. Your opinion matters. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Unbroken Grace Stories community. Where are you watching from?